aid, what a typical financial aid process would look like. So if we were talking about students that were looking to enroll in the fall, they would be completing their financial aid at this time. The same holds true for any of you who are looking to start school next month in January. First and most important thing you want to do is complete the FAFSA. For Massachusetts state residents, for you to be considered for a Mass State grant, which this year is as much as $2,200 free of charge, money that's coming to your account, that deadline is May 1st. Doesn't mean that you can't complete your FAFSA after May 1st. It just means that for our state grant, the Commonwealth would not be able to award you those funds, but you can certainly file your FAFSA today. You can do it as soon as, we're done with this Zoom. You can do it over the weekend. You can do it at 2 in the morning. You just want to make sure that you list our school. So when it comes to the section where you're going to list the schools to get your FAFSA information, you want to make sure you list BFIT as well as our school code, which is 002151. You're going to submit your application, and typically, 48 to 72 hours later, our school will receive that full FAFSA application. So our team will be able to review your eligibility for things like grants, loans, scholarships, work study if you're interested in student employment, any and all things that would be able to help support your financing of your education. Once you've received your financial aid award, if it's not enough to cover your full bill, our team again would be there to be able to help you to create a plan for the remainder of the year. Determining your costs. How are you going to pay for books, depending on your program, if there's a tool charge, your tech fees, any other costs associated with your program. We can certainly help you in creating a payment plan. If you're looking to
Shani, you're muted.
Better? Okay, as well as helping you if you qualify for the income share agreement. So all of those things are available for you. We don't want a student to ever feel finances are a barrier for them to pursue and complete their education. So again, I can't stress enough how much I want and encourage everyone to, get comfortable with me, get comfortable with the rest of our staff and our team, so that, as you're focusing on your academics and, the school part of things, that we're picking up the slack. We're making sure that we're creating a good financial plan for you, so that that's, the least of your worries. So this is just some good information about, how do you do your FAFSA? Where do you find it? For those of you who might have already submitted your FAFSA, that's great. For anybody else who's just starting the process, I've provided the link here. You're going to go to studentaid.gov/apply-for-aid/FAFSA. And that is the free application. That's exactly what FAFSA stands for, the free application for federal student aid. There's no cost involved. So anyone who is suggesting that they help you file your FAFSA and charging a fee, any other website that you go to that says, there's any kind of charge for submitting your FAFSA, stay away from those. This should be the only link that you use to complete the FAFSA each year. Again, you're going to want to make sure that you list our school as well as our code 002151. Without that, there's no way for me or the financial aid team to retrieve your information. So listing our school, listing our code is extremely important. Unfortunately, the Department of Ed, for your security, won't release any of your FAFSA data without our school being listed on your application. So if you've submitted your FAFSA, or you believe you submit your FAFSA and it's been more than a week and our office has not received it, double check your student aid report to make sure that we're listed and that our code is listed. And if there's still an issue, again, contact our office right away. In order to submit your FAFSA, You and or your parents are also going to need to create an FSA ID, which is a Federal Student Aid Identification number. That is going to be unique to yourself as well as your parent if a parent is needed for you to apply. Without your FSA ID, there's no really way for you to complete the application. There's no paper application anymore. So everything is electronic. You definitely want to make sure that you create your FSA ID in advance of you looking to submit your application. Depending on when you are looking to enroll in school. So if you're coming to BFIT in January of next year, 2022, you're going to want to make sure that you complete the 2021-2022 FAFSA application. And for that application, it's going to require you and or your parents' 2019 federal income and tax information. That is very different than someone who's looking to enroll in September of next year, because there's a whole different application that's available that's unique to next academic year. That would be the 2022-2023 FAFSA, for which it would require you and or your parents' 2020 federal income information. Depending on your program, if you're pursuing a certificate that's going to extend into September of next year, or if you're looking to pursue an associate's or a bachelor's, you pretty much could do both FAFSAs at the same time. You just want to make sure that you are using the correct income information for the correct FAFSA. Once you log on and open up the application, it'll tell you again which tax information they need specific to which year, but I just always like to notify folks of that ahead of time so that when you sit down at your computer, your laptop, your phone, however you're submitting your application, you have all of the necessary documents in front of you. Once you submit your FAFSA, you'll be emailed a confirmation with your DRN number. The DRN stands for data retrieval number. So again, it's cyberspace, everything now is electronic. On your end, you might have submitted your FAFSA, but then the Department of Ed for some reason says they haven't received it, or some information is not transferring over. That DRN number is going to be the way for the Department of Ed as well as our office to be able to access your application and to be able to navigate you through the process to make sure that everything goes smoothly. So again, once you submit your FAFSA, be on the lookout for that confirmation email. It'll tell you that your application has been submitted. It'll give you a report out of all of your responses. You definitely want to keep that email, in a safe file, because you very well could have to respond to that at a later date. I don't see the audience right now, but for admissions staff, is there any question right now? Is anyone waiting in the chat? Anything I could address at this point?
No.
No questions?
No,
Okay.
good to go.
So as I had mentioned, once you submit your FAFSA and you receive notification from our office that it's been received, we very well could go ahead and still need additional information from you to verify your eligibility. And again, I really just want everyone to understand that, we know that everyone's time is very limited. The last thing I want to do is stress anyone out about having to submit additional paperwork or proof of, any other kind of status. But because we're talking about federal, state, and institutional dollars towards your education, the Department of Ed very well might say that you need to go through the verification process. And at that point, we would ask for actual hard copies of your tax information. At times, again, based on your status, the Department of Ed might need proof of your citizenship or permanent resident status. They might want us to confirm that you've registered for selective service and things like that. So again, once you apply for admissions, once you apply for financial aid, any requests that come from our office, whether it's by phone, by email, if you're getting an actual hard copy request in the mail, please turn those items around as soon as possible, because with financial aid, there are very tight deadlines when it comes to, making sure that we're awarding you on time, having to report your eligibility back to the state or to the Department of Ed. We don't want any student to miss out on any funds that they're eligible for, especially if it's grants or scholarships, just because they missed a deadline. So again, if you're unsure about exactly what we're requesting, please call us, email, feel free to come to campus and meet with me in person so that you're completely sure of what is required. What I have up here now is just a snippet of what an actual financial aid award would look like. This is someone who had enrolled in a prior school year, but I do just kind of want to stress the segments of the award letter once you receive it that you really want to pay attention to. So up in the top left-hand corner, so this section right here is where our institution would outline what we expect your direct costs to be. And when I say direct costs, I mean things like tuition, your technology fee, any health insurance if you need it, books, supplies, anything that the school is billing you versus your indirect costs. So your living allowance, your own books and supplies that are not billed by the school, transportation, food, all of those things that wouldn't necessarily be covered by financial aid, but we do acknowledge that it does cost to be a student. It does cost to live, in and around the city of Boston. So all of those things go into what we like to call your full educational costs. But these items right here under the direct costs, that's what you really want to pay attention to. So again, this is just an example, for every student that's enrolled, they could have a different cost of attendance and a different financial aid award. But for this student, when we look at their tuition, $16,950, and that would be the certificate or associate's degree program cost of tuition for one school year, as well as their estimated technology fee and their insurance. All of these things come to just under $20,000. Some of these costs could be waived. If you have your own health insurance, for example, that's certainly something that you would want to have taken off of your bill. But the tuition, their fees, those are pretty standard. So again, for this student, they're looking at just about $20,000. And towards that $20,000, they have a financial aid award of $15,150. For that, you would say, all right, what does that mean? What does that $15,000 consist of? Again, on your financial aid award letter, it will itemize exactly where that money is coming from, if it's a grant, if it's a loan, if there's some other kind of scholarship, like for this student, they are receiving the Franklin Assistance Grant, which is pretty common. It'll itemize it by semester. So you'll get used to seeing things like FA-22 or SP-22. Those just pertain to what semester you're going to be enrolled. So we break it down by semester, what you're receiving in aid, and then what that full financial aid cost would be for the year. So again, looking at the costs of tuition and fees compared to the aid, for this student, there is a difference. And that's, again, where our team would come in and help a student based on their set of financial circumstances, their resources that are available, or any other resources that we may know of to come up with a plan to finance the difference between their tuition and fees and what they're getting in a financial aid award. And again, for each year that you're enrolled in school, this award amount could change, so could your cost of education. So when we go out with a financial aid award, it's only going to be for 1 year. Each year that you're enrolled in school, if you're doing something more than just a certificate program, you want to make sure that you file for financial aid each year that you're enrolled. So again, getting back to the point of how do you make up the difference? For each student that's enrolled at BFIT, they could have their own financing option. Not everybody has to do the same thing. You also don't have to have the same financing option each year that you're enrolled. But again, just kind of outlining what your options are. We do have a monthly payment plan that, again, for students that have an outstanding balance, it's a pretty easy way to finance that difference. You're making the same monthly payment, for the year that you're enrolled. Or if paying by month is, just a little too cumbersome and you just want to pay by semester, you certainly can do that as well. Each semester that you're enrolled, you'll receive a statement outlining your charges for that term, outlining your pending financial aid, and then the difference would be what you would need to pay for each term. Typically, you'd want to make that payment before the first day of class. But again, our office, we want to be as flexible as possible. If we need to establish a different payment date, we're more than willing to do that. Some students, again, or parents would apply for a private or federal education loan. Those would be loans outside of our institution. So BFIT does not offer its own financing options in terms of loans, but we certainly can direct you towards federal loan options. Typically, that would be the Parent Plus loan for any parents of students that are enrolled, or private lenders who have specific educational loan programs. We also do have something called an income share agreement, which is it's monitored through our partners with MentorWorks Capital. And they essentially, based on your major, based on the amount of time you're going to be enrolled, there are certain programs that would qualify for this program. If that's something that you're looking into, again, certainly contact our office, but I have also provided the link on our website where you can go ahead and see more about those financing options in detail. And then again, once you get your financial aid award, if you need our assistance in making a decision about one or combining a number of different financing options to pay your balance for the year, again, we can certainly help you to do that. I just wanted to kind of break at this point and ask, does anyone have any questions, any comments or concerns before we jumped into the facts versus fiction part?
If you have a question, you can unmute yourself and ask the question, or you can write it in the chat.
Hi, I have a question about my, because this is the first time I did the FAFSA. My name is Abdurrahman Shleh. So,
Hello.
Hello, did you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can, yes.
Yeah, so I did the FAFSA, but I received a lot of that. They confirmed that I get accepted and congratulations, and your FAFSA it's process it and everything, but I didn't get the detail that I know exactly what's the how the fund goes. Like it goes directly to Benjamin Franklin Institute of Technology, or so I see. Do I have to, like, for me? I like to see the detail. How much difference I still have to pay? How much just the detail. But I log in to the FAFSA account. I don't have any fund, any history yet in there, so I get confused a little bit. But I like to have a little conversation how I can navigate in FAFSA account and get more detail, or I can maybe email you my account and my stuff, and you can help me out with this. I can understand better my my application for FAFSA.
Sure. No, that you're exactly right. You would want to make sure that you understand what you're getting, what you're eligible for. FAFSA, though, will not tell you that information. They'll give you an estimate of what your eligibility is, but each school you apply to, like BFIT, will send you our financial aid award specific to our school. So let's just say that you were applying to more than one school, you'd have more than one financial aid award. FAFSA just tells you, what your federal and possibly state eligibility is for grants and for loans. It's up to each school to determine that. So the first thing that you would want to look out for from BFIT is your financial aid award. Once you get that financial aid award, that would look similar to the prior slide that I had that outlined the direct costs, the indirect costs, and then the breakdown of what you're getting in grants and scholarships and loans and things like that. At that point, you could certainly contact our team to say, all right, what should my next steps be?
Can you get the charger number for me?
Yeah, so if you're logging into your FSA ID and going to FAFSA, you won't see that information there. It'll only come from our school.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Were there any?
Hello, can you hear me? My fault. Can y'all hear me?
I can hear you.
Question. Yeah.
Okay, I was just wondering, like, how much time after you already fill your FAFSA will you get your award from BFIT?
Hey,
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your whole question. Did you say how much time after you've submitted your FAFSA will you get your financial aid award? Was that? What I-
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
Yep.
it depends. If you're not selected for verification and the Department of Ed or our office does not need to request additional information from you. If you're starting in January, we actually just this week began awarding students who had already submitted their FAFSA. So quite possibly starting this weekend, you could receive notification if you've already done your FAFSA about your financial aid for January. If you're looking to enroll for next September, we won't start that process until probably mid to late January for the next fall semester. But as you know, we're in the awarding season, our priority is to award students on a weekly basis. So if you submit your FAFSA and receive it on a Monday, you should be able to expect some kind of financial aid notice, either with an award or a request for additional information by the end of that week. So we don't want students waiting, 2-3 weeks or a month to receive that information or to make a request for additional paperwork. So we try to turn those things around pretty quickly.
Okay.
Does that
All right,
answer your
sounds good.
question?
Yep.
There's a question. So does the FAFSA affect every college differently?
Every college gets the same EFC, or their expected family contribution. So the colleges themselves do not have the ability to determine your federal aid limit. So if FAFSA says you're eligible for a Pell Grant, you're going to get a Pell Grant at any college you attend. If the federal government says you're eligible for a subsidized and or unsubsidized federal loan, you're going to get that loan, unless the school gives you some kind of merit scholarship to cover your full costs, you can expect to see those at every college. Where it does differ between the schools is when it comes to the institution's own scholarship and grant dollars. So yes, that's where you kind of see the difference in financial aid awards from one school to the next. You might see the same Pell Grant, you might see the same loans, but each school could offer a different level of scholarship or grant. So what we do at BFIT is we look at your EFC, we look at your program. Are you going to be enrolled full-time or part-time? We look and see what kind of funded scholarships we have, because there are certain scholarships that we receive that are specific to only a few majors versus scholarships that we receive that are general and can be awarded to anybody. So it really is a case-by-case basis when we go through the process of coming up with a financial aid package. And that's where you will see the difference between one school and another.
I have another question. Hello?
Hello?
Yes. I have a question about when you submit the FAFSA, you submit your tax return for the previous year. But what if your income changed since then? And
Yes.
yeah.
Yep. And that, especially given the last, 2 years, we'll say since COVID, so many families have experienced a change in income where their income is less than it was, say, in 2019 or even early 2020. If that situation is yours, let our office know as soon as possible. Because again, FAFSA will only accept income and tax information for certain years. If that had changed from 2019, if the job you or your parents had in 2019, you no longer have, or you no longer have that same level of salary, our office needs to know that as soon as possible, because that definitely will affect the amount of financial aid that you get.
Okay.
What I would suggest is, do the FAFSA with whatever year's tax information is required. But then once you receive your financial aid, that's when we can have, more detailed conversations about how we can use something that's called professional judgment, where the Department of Ed allows schools to say, this family situation has changed. We're going to go ahead and make some edits to the FAFSA to reflect their true level of, financial stability and come up with a different award package.
So you need what kind of proof do you need? All the pay stubs or?
I would say if it's an issue of unemployment, so if a job you had, had laid you off, laid a parent off, we certainly would need those letters of unemployment, any confirmation of unemployment benefits, a severance package, letter of termination, things like that. If it's based on, maybe a job you had that offered you overtime, or a part-time job that you had that you no longer, don't have that anymore, we would then need to see maybe just that prior year's W-2s to calculate, what that difference in income level had been.
All right, but it also, because this is still years going on, so I don't obviously have a W-2 for this year, but do we need like a latest pay stubs, which
Your last pay stub, if the income level change happened in 2021, that will be reflected in your, I'd say December 31st or your last pay stub of this year. You don't have to necessarily wait for your W-2 because that last pay stub will show us your year-to-date earnings. So again, if that's something that happened this year or even in 2020, outside of the FAFSA, yes, there certainly would be documents you would want to submit to our office where we can kind of, look at things under a microscope.
okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Tony, we have one more question
Yeah.
in the chat. I'm a full-time student, then I withdrew from one course. How does that affect my financial aid?
Yes, okay. Well, it depends on when you withdraw. So, for most colleges, there's something that's called the add drop or the stabilization period. It's always the first couple weeks of the term where, we assume most students are going to be full-time, but based on your schedule, based on other commitments, maybe you're not going to take 15 credits, but you're going to take 10 or 11. For BFIT, 12 credits or more is considered full-time. Anything less than that, you're a part-time student. You can still get financial aid, but there's a very good chance that that aid is going to be reduced. I will say that if you're dropping below 12 credits and you're eligible for Mass Grant, the state will no longer administer those funds to BFIT on your behalf. So that is always something to keep in mind. If you're eligible for the Pell Grant, again, so long as you're taking 6 credits or more, you could still receive that grant, but it will be at a lower level. And then for your federal loans, so long as you're 6 credits or more, you'll still receive those at the full amount. So if you're having questions about whether to be a full or a part-time student, that certainly would want to be an email or a phone call you make to our office. Once we get your FAFSA to determine, what financial aid would you be eligible for on a full-time basis? And then what would that look like if you're going down to part-time? If you make the withdrawal from one class during the semester, so let's say, it's past the midterms and, you just are unable to finish out that class for the semester, and, you do what we say, you take a W for that class, a withdraw, it stays on your transcript. You're still paying for that class. And because you're still paying for that class, there's no reduction in your financial aid. So again, back to the point of it all depends on when you drop below full-time, but anytime that you're doing that, you always want to double check with financial aid to see, like you just said, how does that affect the package that you've already been awarded? Is that it?
Let's say,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Let's say I want to get a loan. Who would I specifically go to? Would I go to FAFSA or would I have to contact you guys through the school?
I would say contact our office first. From FAFSA, the Department of Ed will already determine your eligibility for federal loans, but those are capped at certain amounts that might not cover your full cost for the year. So again, based on your aid package, if there's still a balance to be paid out of pocket, I would say contact our office and we can look and see, what your options are. If there are additional federal loans, or if you want to go the private loan or, an income share agreement route.
Mm-hmm. All right. Okay. I have another question. This is not specifically about the financial thing. It's mostly about classes. Let's say I'm taking a certificate class, but I change my mind and in the middle of the school year, I want to change to an associate's. How would that work?
So on the admission side, you would once you enroll into the school, you would need to let your academic advisor know that you're looking to change your major, depending upon what certificate you're in and what associate degree you're choosing to go into. Some credits may be transferable. If not, we will encourage you to finish that semester or potentially finish up that certificate This way you could potentially leave with a certificate and an associate, depending upon what your ultimate goal is. It wouldn't make sense to our certificate programs are typically 2 semesters for the most part, unless if you're looking at, practical electricity, which may go into like the 3rd semester. But if you do half of the semester, you might as well just finish that one out, do that other semester, get the certificate, and then potentially go and go into our associate degree. But you'll have an academic advisor that will be able to talk to you about your options, as well as us in admissions will be able to, have deeper conversations with you to figure out what would be the best option for you.
Okay. So even if the certificate I'm taking offers an associate's degree, I still have to go through all that, and
Right.
And my credits wouldn't transfer, or
It depends. If the certificate, let's say you're in automotive, right? You're doing a certificate program, and then you say, you know what, I actually want the associate degree. We would encourage you to finish the certificate and then transfer all those credits into the associate degree. A lot of our certificates are stackable into associate degrees, which allows you to stack all those. It's a part of the curriculum. It's just that the certificate doesn't have any English, any math, any general ed courses. We're in the associate degree. That second year, you'll be taking the English, the math, and all of the general educational courses.
Oh, okay. So so what's it called? An associate's degree is basically just like the certificate with the other primary classes.
Right. Correct.
All right.
So the certificate program, all of our certificate program are all technical and trade classes. And then with the associate degree, you take all the technical and trade courses along with all the general education courses.
All the train courses in the certificate are the same as the associates. They teach you the same exact thing, go through everything the exact same way.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Shani, you could continue.
Continue. Okay. So what we're going to do now, and this is where, you all get to, kind of think about an issue, and certainly in the chat, or again, if you want to raise your hand with the icon, and admissions can kind of direct you to give out your answer. This is where I really want to dispel the facts versus the fiction of financial aid, and get you to kind of really start thinking about how our financial aid team is here to support you at BFIT. So I'm going to put out, a quote, a statement, and then you're going to have to determine, is that a fact or is that fiction? And you can, like I said, answer in the chat or raise your hand. So the first statement is, if you apply for financial aid, you will not have to make any out-of-pocket payments to the college. Is that a fact or is that fiction?
I think that's fiction.
Fiction. And for fiction, why do you think that is so?
Because you discussed we might have to set up payment plans to make up the difference. So that's technically still paying out of pocket. Even if you guys give us a way to pay it, we still have to pay it. So that's my logic.
Excellent. Does anyone want to counter that with a fact? Okay, so you're half right. It's semi-fiction. Because it really depends on the financial aid award. So in the previous statement, it said you will not, like a definite, you won't have to. For 1 year, that actually might be the case. The next year, that might be different. So it's really hard to tell ahead of time. That's why it's important for you, when you receive your financial aid award, contact our department so that we can, kind of walk you through, what do all these numbers mean? What's a loan, that you'll need to pay back? What is a grant or a scholarship? And is there going to be any remaining balance? So again, that statement, half right, half fiction, half fact. It depends on your award. You still might have other fees that are not covered by financial aid. So again, to make sure that you're getting the most financial aid each year, you want to make sure that you don't miss any deadlines, and just submit any and everything that's requested in a timely manner. Okay. Next statement, fact or fiction. If my parents don't claim me on their taxes, and we didn't discuss this, but maybe some of you know, if my parents don't claim me on their taxes, I don't have to add their income to my FAFSA. So what that's saying is if my parents don't claim me, can I just do my FAFSA on my own? Is that fact or fiction?
I feel like it's facts.
Did I hear fact from someone?
Yeah, that's a fact.
Okay, and why do you believe that is a fact?
Because once your parents don't put you on their taxes, you're dependent, and you're able to like put your own, like you earn enough to put your own information.
Yes, you certainly, once you start working on your own, could be filing your own taxes to which your parents might not claim you because you have your own income and tax return that you're filing. But that statement is actually false. That is fiction. The Department of Ed is very, very picky about how they want to interpret who's an independent student versus who still needs their parents' information to file for financial aid. So on the FAFSA itself, for those of you who've already applied, if you can think back to the student status section where it asks you like a string of questions, you know, are you 24? Are you married? Do you have any children? Are you a veteran? You know, had you been in foster care or anything like that up until, you know, after the age of 13? All of those questions are what the Department of Ed will use to determine, you know, do you need to submit parents' information? So essentially for most students, unless you're 24 years old, your parents are still going to be required to provide their information on their FAFSA. Even if they're not the ones that are going to be paying your out-of-pocket expenses, even if they don't claim you on their taxes, even if you have your own income and file your own taxes, the Department of Ed is still believing that, you know, you should be applying for financial aid as an entire household. So again, if you have questions about that, or if there are situations that are unique to your family that you think might warrant a different kind of review, again, contact our office as soon as possible, because again, the Department of Ed does give us some leeway on certain issues where we might be able to make an exception, but we can't do that, again, probably without a lot of additional paperwork from you. So for the most part, you know, if you're answering no to all of those questions that the FAFSA is asking, your parents' information is going to be provided, is going to be necessary. But if you're answering yes, so if you're over 24, if you are married, if you do have at least one child, if you are a veteran and so forth, then yes, you're independent and FAFSA will not require your parents' information. Next statement, you can repay your loans after you graduate from BFIT. Is that fact or is that fiction?
Fact.
Fact. Do we have anybody going for fiction?
I think that's another middle ground question.
If you're parsing
Fair
words, being very, very, you know, detailed about the statement as it's written, I would agree with you. Because right, you could pay your loans while you're in school, but you're not required to do so until after you graduate.
Okay.
And that's pertaining to federal loans, which most students at BFIT, again, because our costs are so low and because we do give very robust financial aid awards, there aren't many students that need to borrow over and above that. So with your federal loans that are packaged, the Department of Ed does give you a 6-month grace period after you graduate before they would expect you to begin repayment. So again, you're repaying any loans that you're offered after you graduate. You don't have to make payments while you're in school, but you know, it never hurts to do so because any payments that you make while you're in school will be going directly to the principal of your loan. It won't be going to any interest. So that's going to essentially over time lower your debt in terms of debt repayment. So yes, you certainly can elect to do so at any time, but you're not actually required to begin any loan payment until after you graduate. Next statement, your financial aid package will not change once it has been awarded to you, fact or fiction? And I think that was a part of our conversation we had probably about 10 minutes ago.
I think
Anybody want to be courageous and throw out an answer?
I think it's a fact, and I would also like to develop on the idea of possibly having to pay back any money or any awards given out to a student. That's really my only doubt in my mind right now.
Okay, and is that regarding repaying your loans or just paying any uncovered?
Paying any financial aid given, like awards.
Okay, so let's answer this statement first, and then yes, we can
Yeah,
on
okay.
to that topic. So for this statement, your financial aid package will not change once it's been awarded. That is fiction. Because as we just discussed, it can change for several reasons, whether you're going from either full-time to part-time or part-time to full-time. If you've been selected for verification and a detailed review is done of your actual or your parents' actual tax returns, that might increase or decrease your eligibility for aid. Or if you miss a certain deadline, if there's additional information that's required and those things aren't turned back around, certain funds might be subtracted from your financial aid award. So again, keeping up with any phone calls, voicemails from our offices, any emails, anything coming in the mail from financial aid, or just any mail coming from BFIT, you always want to open it up. If you're unsure about anything, please always give us a call or contact us in the best way possible so that none of these things are happening to your financial aid award that aren't absolutely necessary. But getting back to Benjamin, I think your question about just covering those items that aren't covered by financial aid. Was there a specific cost that you were kind of worried about, like the health insurance, or was it something totally different?
So let's say that you're awarded a grant and you go to a part-time.
Mhm.
Would they ask me to pay some of it back? That's my main concern.
Well, if you're receiving a grant or a scholarship, that's money that you would never have to repay. You'd only be repaying your loans. And again, that's after you graduate. But if you're going from full-time to part-time, and let's say on full-time basis, we awarded you a grant of $5,000. And that was based on you being, 12 credits or more for 2 semesters. But you went down to part-time. Instead of 12 credits, you're taking 8. Yes, you certainly would expect that grant or scholarship to be reduced, but then we also would walk you through the process of, okay, what does that mean for your bill? Because if you're reducing your credits, your charges then would also be reduced. So you might actually not have any additional costs to pay out of pocket, but it really case by case basis. Again, that's why I really stress anytime a student is looking to make changes to their enrollment, again, part-time, full-time, anything like that, always double check with financial aid so that you're well aware of any new costs that maybe you didn't have in the beginning. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
And fact or fiction, you have to complete the FAFSA each year you are enrolled.
That is a fact.
That is a fact. Well, if you want financial aid, we're not a school that requires students to file for financial aid, but unless you just, want to pay out of pocket the full cost, yes, you definitely want to do that FAFSA, even if it is just, to receive a loan or just to receive a Pell Grant or something like that. There's no way for us to determine your eligibility without that application being submitted. So yes, again, if you're in a program that's more than just 2 semesters or 1 calendar year, you certainly want to make sure you do as many FAFSAs as necessary so that we can, give you those dollars towards your education. And again, the state deadline for the Mass grant, which this year, like I said, is up to $2,200. That deadline is May 1st every year. And the FAFSA itself opens up October 1st. So again, anyone looking to come to school in January, that 21-22 application is already open. If you're looking to attend next fall, September of 22, that 22-23 FAFSA is open as well, and that happens each October 1st. And the last statement, colleges do not accept appeal letters asking for an increase in financial aid, fact or fiction.
Right.
Did I hear someone give an answer?
Fact.
You said that it's so you believe it is a fact that colleges do not accept appeal letters?
Yes.
Okay, is there anyone who thinks that this is fiction? No? Well, I'm very glad to say that at some colleges, this is a fact. Some colleges do not accept appeal letters. Your award letter is what it is. I'm very happy to say that at BFIT, that is definitely fiction. You know, again, we take the concept of financial aid and making sure, again, that finances are not a barrier to you pursuing your education very seriously. As things come up, I used to say, you know, should any changes happen, but in this day and age, you know, again, finances could change week to week, month to month. As those things happen, please let our office know so that if there's additional scholarships you're eligible for, if there's, you know, an increase to your loan that you or your parents are eligible for, that we're able to award them. If there's, you know, student employment that you need, you know, working part-time on a weekly basis just to help with, you know, a T-Pass or to help with groceries or things like that. We want to be able to extend those resources to you, but the only way we can do that is if you let us know that there's been a change. So again, at BFIT, this is fiction. We definitely accept appeal letters, you know, pretty much as needed. Some schools have deadlines and say, you know, if it's after November 1st, they're no longer accepting them. For us, again, we believe that, you know, changes unfortunately aren't bound by calendar dates. And if there's something that's happening with you or your family that's affecting your ability to pay for school, we want to know that as soon as possible. So again, if our financial aid award is not going to be enough for you to commit for the year or until your program is over, please let us know. It's not a guarantee that you would receive more aid, but at least it starts the conversation and we can see, you know, what else we could do or what some of our partners could help to do for you. And, you know, essentially all of this is really geared towards making sure that you're enrolled at BFIT, that you're feeling comfortable about things, that even if you don't have all your questions answered, you at least have the tools necessary, the resources, you know who to contact, you know, when and where, because, you know, the main goal is for you to, you know, be just like all of these students here in their caps and gowns, walking across the stage, receiving your certificate and your degree, and then making future plans for your life. So again, we're just here to help along the way. But yeah, that's it for the slideshow this evening. If there's other questions, you know, I can certainly stick around for a few more minutes if there's questions in the chat or anyone else. Or you can also email, call our office as you see fit.